Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our Healthy Mind podcast. Today we have an awesome, fantastic man, Joe Naufahu, which is a former rugby player. He was and an actor, but I want him to introduce himself because he's such an authentic person and he's got great positive energy, and that's what he's all about.
Oh, thank you so much, Alessandro. I'm very grateful to be speaking with you today, and it's always a pleasure to share time with you, especially being the other side of the world. And this is one of the beautiful things about the technology that we have these days, is that it allows people like myself and yourself who have similar energy and alignment to make connections that we wouldn't otherwise have. So I'm very grateful for that, because when you meet people and you meet people from different places, it's the best thing when you kind of find common ground, because you just think, wow, like the world is so big and it's so expansive, but yet here we are, we live on opposite ends, and we see things the same way, or we have the same kind of energy. So just personally, thank you so much for having me, bro.
Exactly. Thank you for your time. I know time is very precious, and I think you're the same. I'm really careful of who we spend time with, because we want always have a kind of positive return.
Yeah, big time.
Sometimes it's enough a little word, sometimes it's enough a smile. You just feel the energy. It doesn't cost much.
Nothing, man, nothing. So I mean, it's quite interesting, because I had to do an introduction recently to a new group of people that I'm working with, and but the introduction was an interesting one. There's a cultural significance with the group I was working with, so I was able to speak a little bit about my cultural background, which is something I don't often get to do. So I'm going to introduce myself in the same way today. So my name is Joe Naufahu. My full name is Joseph Stalin Naufahu, which is an interesting story in itself. But my mother is Samoan. She's of German heritage as well. There's a few other little things sprinkled in there. My mum grew up in Samoa, in a little village called Lotopā. She kind of grew up in an area called Tonga Fuafua in Samoa. Tonga Fuafua. Make sure I get that right, otherwise Mum's going to slap me.
Watch out when you go back home.
Exactly. My dad is Tongan, and he grew up in a village called Kolonga, which is famous, amongst other things, for having this monumental stone kind of set up there, which is kind of like, we call it the Tongan Stonehenge, and it's called the Ha'amonga. And it's I've got this chain that I wear, I don't know if you can see it, which is shaped like the Ha'amonga. There's two tall rocks and then one that goes across the top, and no one knows how those rocks was, much like Stonehenge, made their way up from the beach to the village, which is quite a distance. But they talk of Tongan giants carrying the stones up, and so there's a little story about my dad's village in Tonga, and that's kind of my grounding is all about my parents, and I owe everything to my parents. They came over here from the islands back in, would have been the 60s, and set up this life for me and my brothers and sisters. And I didn't really know a lot about my culture as I was growing up, so as an adult, one of the things I'm constantly trying to do is find a little bit more about my culture, reconnect to it, to my Polynesian heritage, and so that I can pass things on to my children, And I work in New Zealand as a gym owner. I run a gym in New Zealand called Ludus Magnus. I also work in strength and conditioning. I contract for a super rugby team over here called Moana Pacifica, and it's their first or second year. They had their first year last year, but we had COVID, and it was a pretty disjointed competition. But I strength and conditioning contract to that team, and it's a unique team because it's a team that is filled with Māori, Samoan, Tongan, Fijian, Rarotongan, any Pacific Island culture. We represent that culture, and so we're looking forward to this year ahead. And I have 2 children, Freddie and Eva. They're teenagers, you know, so I'm going through all of that with them. And I got 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And man, I love my family. I love training people. I love eating. I love music. You know, I love listening to music, any kind of music. I actually have to go to, well, I say have to, but my girlfriend is a massive Michael Bublé fan. So we're getting tickets today to go to the Michael Bublé concert.
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just, you know, I love life. I love, you know, spending time with people that are on the same journey as me, I guess. And, you know, I feel like in terms of health and fitness, I feel like, you know, there's this growing awareness now that, you know, mental health is the #1 goal
Yes.
behind. And, you know, I think that's kind of, you know, my kind of constant goal is to keep changing people's paradigms around exercise so that it becomes something that brings them joy and, you know, makes them happy, and they see the connection between exercise and mental health, and they start seeing exercise as not necessarily pain, but, you know, as a necessary daily ritual that when performed will achieve amazing benefits for them. So yeah, that's what it's done for me, and I believe it can do the same for lots of people, much like yourself, Alessandro. So it's a real pleasure just to sit and chat with you, bro.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for the amazing introduction. And I don't know if you guys noticed, there is a word that has been said many, many times, which is culture. So culture is something extremely important to me, and that's what we try to spread, because it doesn't matter if you have a family, you create culture. Like you see, like he was talking about his background, and I come in from a little village in Italy on a Lake Como too. So we have our own little culture. And same thing, I really owe a lot to my parents, because they still, you know, even if I'm 42, I'm still their baby. And if I have to ask something important to the first people, that my mentors, the first people that I go to are them. They literally my example. But the culture is so important because it's what put people together. Like I'm Italian, for example, you say you love food, I love food too. And I want to say, like, to people to stop thinking that if you have to have like healthy food to feel better, it doesn't taste or it must be bad. That's not true. You can enjoy your food, and you also need to earn sometimes some extra food. But you can definitely love eating, and you don't need to be obese or fat. You don't need to risk to have diabetes. And food and movement, I don't know, probably agree with me, it's a therapy. Now, if you move and you enjoy what you do and you do it with someone else, that's what you do also at the gym. It's not just going to the gym. What kind of community are we creating at the gym? Or it can be outdoor, wherever you are, or you play some kind of sports. I personally love competing, but I love competing in game sports, because it's the energy of many, and there is a community inside that. And that's what people are attracted from, their energy.
100%.
And you were talking about mental health. Yes, I believe that mental health is when people actually opposite, they close themselves and they feel alone. I want to, you know, there are people like Joe and many others like myself that we here to support you, because you're never alone. As you said, you get technology. So if you're lucky, find your own community in your village, in your city, wherever you are, if you travel. But otherwise, we got these. We can create community everywhere, because it's the values that maintain the community together. And we all had challenges. For example, I can talk about my challenges, but I want about asking about you. Is there any particular challenge that you have to went through, like you had to go through in your career, when you were acting or in your sports, any particular injury that it was extremely tough, even mentally, not just maybe it was a physical problem, maybe it was a mental problem, maybe it was both. that you can share with us, and how did you actually overcame that? What kind of support did you need at that time? Or thinking about it now, what kind of support you would have had needed that you didn't have, but now you know?
Yeah, I mean, far out. I think everyone's been through a number of challenges in their life, and it's kind of, you know, when you look back on them and you look back at the things that you, or times when you made big decisions in your life, you know, they've usually been on the back of some very challenging situations, you know, and, you know, you look back on those times when those decisions were made, and, you know, the things that you went through and the trials and the hardships. And sometimes it's like, man, you just think, you know, I had to go through that it was a necessary part of my life in order for me to reach the place that I'm at. And I'm not saying you're at any particular status level, but in terms of your own personal development and your own understanding of yourself, you know, like, I think that as we grow and mature, you know, the more that we can spend time finding out about ourselves, the more that we can understand ourselves and love ourselves, if you know what I mean. I just don't think that, you know, I really understood myself when I was a bit younger, you know, and I think the trials and troubles I went through were part of my process of knowing myself and starting to understand the way that I operate and the things that, you know, I was instinctively responding to. And, you know, through conditioning, I was acting in particular ways that I didn't even realize, you know.
How do you shift your mindset to approach the problem? Once you grow in, every time we learn something, how do you approach with your mindset? How do you think next time that is coming another obstacle? How do you get into it based on your experience?
You know what, and you know, and this is part of why my gym has kind of got a rep as being a really hard gym. You know, the workouts are really tough, and I think for me personally, building that style of training came from enduring pain and suffering. You know, to the point where I had no choice but to snap out and go and find ways, go figure it out for myself, look inside. You know, turn inwards. For that solution. And that's part of the challenge when you work out. When something is given to you, you see a workout or you're given a workout that's really tough, and you go into this place of questioning yourself, man, have I got what it takes to get through this? Am I really, can I be bothered doing this? You know, or you start going, why has he ridden up that many, you know, reps? Or why have we got to go so heavy for? Why are we, you know, training so hard? And for me, I really have built this style of training out of my own experiences of enduring through times that were tough and getting to a place where I had no other choice but to get up and move and get up and find the answer. You know, when I was playing rugby in the UK, I had a couple of really bad knee injuries, and they made me really I was living through a lot of pain. You know, I was enduring a lot of pain to do the thing that I loved, and I thought that was my identity, which was to go out, put a rugby jersey on, and, you know, play 80 minutes.
Excited about it.
You know, and I thought that was, I really, from a very young age, I thought that was all I was a rugby player. You know, I was this, you know, individual or this human being that was gifted with some, you know, talents that made me a good rugby player. And I thought, wow, that's where I've been put in, pigeonholed. You know, and so when that was kind of taken away from me and the enjoyment left it, you know, I was like, what do I do now? You know, and it's a scary place, because so many years you've been stamped, you know, with this label, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you're not in that anymore. What are you going to do? And you kind of go, for a while I was in a very dark place, and then, you know, I made a couple of decisions. One was to come back to New Zealand from Scotland, and then you just start rolling with the punches. You know, I came back, I ended up auditioning for a TV show. I got the role, and it sparked up a desire in me to creatively express myself, you know, and that was in the form of acting, which I'd never really done before. But I'd lived a life of experience, which is what I used as my motivation and my inspiration when I read the lines and try to make sense of them and, put my spin on it. It came from my life experiences. And so, that's one example where, I went through a tough situation and came to a point of having to make a decision. The challenge was met. I went through a process, I went through some very dark times, but I had to go through those. They were necessary parts of the development and the stage of development that I was at. They were necessary for me to reach another stage of maturity, and it didn't stop there. I mean, I don't think it ever stops. I don't think you ever stop learning lessons.
No. If you are the kind of person that you understand that, you want to keep growing, you know that you will keep growing. And I believe that we will have more challenges, not less, but it changed the way we approach them.
100%. Yeah.
So what we want to highlight is that everyone is going through some kind of challenge.
Yeah.
But first of all, the philosophy of how you have to approach that is the same. It's like what is actually, even in fitness and and health and fitness, lots of people, they find that they tell themselves, they say, oh, it's too hard. No, that's the story that they tell themselves. It's too hard. They always say, okay, it was hard for Joe. It was hard for me. It was hard for someone else in many different situations. Like I've been in many years ago, in 2006, I've been in, I was competing different sports, but then had a motorbike accident and I couldn't walk. I found myself in a wheelchair. So what do you do about it? As you said, I didn't accept that. And then many other challenges, even recently, other personal challenges. There have always been challenges. But what do you do about it? If you have the mindset of it's too hard, or it costs too much energy, or it costs too much money, whatever it is that is, what's the cost of not doing it? If you are in a bad place, if you don't do something, looking for support, looking for someone that he said, for example, just said we have a good energy, and his way to bring up that energy is having tough workout. That's one way, that's his way. Find your way, but find the community that resonates with you, because if you don't do something about it 100%, you worry maybe about it, oh, maybe I won't succeed, maybe it will be too hard, but that's a chance. You have 100% chance of not succeeding if you decided to not take in any kind of action, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, when I think about those times that you go through when it's really hard, and I know, man, when you're in those and it's you personally, there's not a lot that, someone can say to you to kind of, help you or make you feel better. But, I mean, for me, it was a matter of just hanging on, like just hanging in there, just struggling through it. And, I mean, there's kind of, two natural responses when the challenge is presented, and one is fight and one is flight. Those are the instinctive responses that we have. But there is also the one that I've learned to, kind of manifest and to develop over the years is the art of staying, and holding on. And things that have helped me do that are, things like breath work, meditation, cold water therapy, these things that kind of put you in this uncomfortable situation or position and kind of train your ability to stay in those places of discomfort, so that when real life comes at you, you're like, yeah, I know what this is like. I've felt this. I just got to hang on through this, and I know that if I can just hang on and use the people around me and use these tools, exercise, meditation, cold water therapy, all of these beautiful tools that my father's generation, they never had all of that stuff. But I've got, why shouldn't I use this code that has been gifted and crack this problem that has been placed in front of me by using these tools? And and these are the tools that I've only just, because I've been trying to learn about these things, pick them up for myself on ways that I can deal with tough situations. And that's why I'm able to go back to them, So I think being vulnerable and being open to new things, to new ideas, to new ways of thinking, to be curious, that's one of the main things You got to be curious about what's out there, curious about spiritualities, curious about, healing, alternative forms of healing, ways of healing that aren't, necessarily inside a bottle,
Exactly. That's what we always preach. Like we Vital Health, we want to put body in condition that are able to heal themselves. We don't need drugs or any other things unless you refuse to be open to learn. Our body is so powerful because our mind, everything you said now, like the ice bath and the training and the meditation, the breathing work, it's all you achieve even physical things, but because you put yourself in a mental challenge. And then if you can snap that, then physically becomes easier because it's coming from here and the body execute, but it's in our brain.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're constantly, in pursuit of this unity between mind and body, and that's this dueling concept that we kind of live through at the moment between mind and body. We're kind of torn between the two, in times of despair, but the more we can kind of bring them together and, to create this oneness, where there's this harmony and alignment between the mind and the body, and acceptance and understanding that the mind has for the body's limitations as you mature. This is one of the toughest things as you get older, is coming to grips with the physical, the body breaking down and, not being at the expectation that you once had of what your body could perform and achieve. And as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to do those things. And your mind is like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? You used to be able to do that, man, you
kind of not accept that you're not able to do it anymore.
Yeah, so you've got to, I think, as that is one of the main challenges as you get older, especially if you were, a high-performing athlete and young, is to accept, and I mean authentically accept and love yourself with every day that passes in the body, with everything that it's still able to do, is finding gratitude for those things. Say, for example, if you have a bad injury and all you can do is walk, man, finding the beauty and just being able
to be grateful.
Exactly, it's just having that constant gratitude for everything that you've been, allowed to achieve as a human being, So it's, it's one of those things that's constantly, challenging every day,
Yes, like last night, for example, I was so tired. It was such a long day. It was so late, but I was supposed to go back in my first, after a long time, basketball game. And I said, I was so tired, I actually fall asleep on dinner time. Then I woke up and it was just the time to go, and I could easily text the coach and say, sorry, I just had a hard day and not coming. But then I just jump out of the bed, cold shower, and then I put the things in the bag and I said, look, I'm 5 minutes late, but I'm coming. And I went there and it was really fun. And then I gained this energy. What I mean by, even if you have a mental barrier, whatever that is, I can say that if you make it through, it's very related, as you said, mind and body. If you do something that changes your status and make you feel better, once you do that, then it's just easier. Once you're in, once you have your 1 foot in, the energy is dragging you. And then also the accountability. If you tell your mates you're going to train together, well, if you don't show up, that's not good. If you say that, you're going to have a game and your team is counting on you and you're not showing up, well, that's not good. So that accountability helps.
It's kind of like, that's all you got to do, right? I tell my clients at the gym, all you got to do, man, is walk through those doors and I got you. Just turn up. I don't care whether you're in a bad mood, whether, you crashed your car before you came, but I guarantee you, when you walk out the doors, you're going to feel in a better place.
Absolutely.
Got to turn up.
If you get that culture, we can guarantee that once you get the step in the door, that culture, just being there, you're already a level up.
Yeah, 100%.
Because everyone that is saying, like, it's too difficult to eat right, it's too difficult to exercise. Let's even just not talking about their level, but someone that is really lost We're talking about mental health went booming during these 2-3 years because of COVID and the things, and people feel isolated, so the missing community. But even at a simple level, as soon as you take some kind of action, you start ticking in a different way. New part of the culture.
There's a YouTube channel that I watch quite consistently, and it's a group of young American guys. Well, I think there's a few different nationalities in there, but they're these young guys, and they're called the Yes Theory. And I don't know if you guys are listening out, you watch these guys as well, but basically they say yes to everything. So that if you write in and give them, say that there's, for example, they went and they spent time in the Amazon jungle with these, they're called bee hunters, and they still hunt these amazing bees in the Amazon forest. So they go and do things like that. And their label, their motto is called Seek Discomfort. And I think it's just a really cool message that it sends out, and it's what we're talking about, which is to say yes, turn up, if a challenge is put in front of you, say yes to it, give it a go, because you never know what magic and what code might be cracked with the challenge, and you might not even get through the challenge that's placed in front of you, but the process, right? Not the end of the destination, but the process, the journey, you accepting the challenge and coming to front up and even failing it. You're going to learn something from it,
Absolutely.
And that is the beauty of saying yes,
Yes, they're just cutting the limiting beliefs. I always believe that people have got too many limiting beliefs. We experience ourselves, I'm pretty sure you experience yourself too. I did. Sometimes I'm still doing it, but then I pick myself up. There is some kind of story when there is a challenge that you start telling yourself that it's too difficult, you can't do it, you are alone, you feel bad, it's not for you, whatever excuses. But then when you stop, you cut these little voices and you start to take action. My father used to tell me very simply 2 things. Enthusiasm for whatever you do is the number one important things to succeed, because people feeling it. And second, think less and do more. so if you think too much, it's like it was giving an example to me, simple example of like a big mosquito. There is a big mosquito, I don't remember exactly the name, but basically it's bigger than a flyer. It's got a big body but a small swing.
Like
so
a T-Rex.
In theory, it couldn't fly. But he decided, because he was seeing someone else, the other animals fly, and the birds and the flies and things, to just don't even think about it that he couldn't fly. And he just jumped and flew. Because his belief was like, I'm surrounded of any other insect and animal that actually can fly. It's not even an option that I cannot do it the same. Sometimes we need just to do. We need to do it, and then once we are in that frame, in that environment, in that mindset, everything open up.
Agreed. Yeah, totally, man. The power of belief,
Yes. So what is your suggestion or tip or little exercise or mental thing or physical thing? I believe in physiology to change your status mentally to people that they still feel, bad, alone, lethargic. They think just too much about their problem instead of the solution.
Well, I think the first thing to know that's really important is that the voices in your head are not necessarily telling the truth. A lot of people, there's always the internal dialogue. We all have it. I don't know if you must be, you've got to be, it's the other way. You're crazy if you don't have an internal dialogue. If you're someone that just constantly got positive thoughts running through their mind, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're a human being. You know what I mean? We all have this internal dialogue that's consistently challenging us, And I think the first thing to recognize is that those voices are there not necessarily because they're telling you the truth, but because they're trying to drive you towards something, right? They're trying to pick you up or affect you in ways that no one else can, because no one else can affect you like the voices in your own head. They're like a spell. Someone puts a spell on you, right? Because they're constant. They're just going all the time. And you know what it's like, repetition. And more you do something, it becomes instinctive, right? So if you're hearing these things all the time coming at you, you're going to start acting in a way that represents those words, And And so to remember, what you've got to remember is that, man, those words, sometimes they're not true. And it goes with when you look in the mirror, you get told things that aren't true. You tell yourself lies about what you look like. You look in the mirror and you go, fuck, man, my biceps I need to get bigger here, or, you know, I'm a bit fat around here, or, you know, we all do, man. And it's kind of recognizing when those voices come through that they're not true. It's a lie, and the reason it is because it wants you to do something. What is it? The lesson I'm learning here, man, is to, mate, I'm gonna go and do some exercise, you know, or I'm gonna, you know, be wary of. I mean, if you didn't have those voices, can you imagine how much fun you'd go out and have? You'd just be going crazy, you know what I mean? You'd
pick up more opportunities.
You know what I mean? So I think there's you know, something to be said for those voices in your head, but it's just kind of not trying to shut them off, because I don't think that's possible either. I don't think it's possible to just go, I'm cutting you off, and you can't put your hand over the mouth, you know?
Yeah, we have feelings.
You got to be able to absorb them, you know, and then act on them, but not in a way that is going to negatively affect what you do. So it's kind of accepting yourself, loving yourself. I mean, at Ludus, we've never had any mirrors. We don't have them. And the reason being is because you look in the mirror and immediately your voices, they start telling you lies about what you're seeing, you know? So in a place which is supposed to be about healing, why would you kind of open this door to self-consciousness? You know, I feel like, you know, when you go in there, your goal is, it's the actual movement. It's the process. It's not about what you see or what you look, you know, at yourself. It's about what you're doing, man, and the energy and the endorphins that movement is creating inside your body, you know, and that's what you take away with you, you know, rather than walking away or, you know, and thinking, man, I was looking in that mirror and I was just like, hate that, man. You know, you walk away and you go, far out, man, I knocked out that yada yada or whatever, you know, many reps, or, you know, man, I saw my mate, we were going hard out together, you know, we were going, having a mean
that
workout.
energy.
That's the energy you want to take away.
If you add the little voice, you can be even maybe kind of perfect and then still looking for what is wrong.
You know, I mean, we're built that way. We're constantly, you know, we're kind of, this is the endless struggle that we have of acceptance of ourselves. It's like, do we accept, or do I need to be better than that, you know? So we're constantly, but there comes a time when you've got to make that decision of, I'm good with where I'm at. I'm happy with this, you know, because I feel like I've worked hard to get here, and I'm going to, you know, be with this for a while, you know? And then it's that, yeah, self-improvement, it's one of those, it's a fine line between, you know, going too far, you know, constantly pushing yourself too far, and, you know, achieving what you, in your heart, know that you can, you know?
Yes, don't put any unnecessary limits. And I completely agree with you with the feelings and not the mirror, because even when I coach people, of course, you talk about technically, but then I coach a lot by feeling. Even if you're deadlifting, for example, everyone is so different. Someone maybe has got some back injuries and things, but it doesn't mean that they cannot lift. But if we make them understand how they're supposed to feel before to pick up some heavy weight, where are the tension, how do you feel your core? Are you conscious of connecting your mind with the body to protect your spine, to get the pressure in the right point rather than the wrong point, and get the right levers? Then regardless of that technique, you can adjust a little bit yourself. And when you feel good, it's okay, now you can pick up the weight.
Beautiful. That's it. Totally agree.
It's amazing and powerful. So thank you so much for sharing all this wisdom, experience, and especially what I love the most is the energy, the passion, and that's, I think, what people need the most for support, and knowing that we are here. The world is not alone, and I want to see more people conscious about that. And as you said, absorb their voices, but then push it away and surround yourself with the right people. Bring yourself up.
That's it. Love your work, man. Love your work, Alessandro, man. I really appreciate what you do out there.
Yeah, I promise that I will come a Ludus one day.
Yeah.
So I've never been in New Zealand.
But the real original Ludus Magnus where you are, man. I've been there, you know, outside the Colosseum. So it'd be nice to have you come and see the Ludus outside of Italy, man, you know?
Yes, I need to go. Like, you know, that I live in Australia now, so we're not far.
Yeah.
But it's, Italy is always my heart, and then Colosseum is connected to another coach of mine, Martin Rooney, that is his logo and his history is coming from the Colosseum and the lions that were fighting there, and there's a story of that. Very interesting.
Beautiful, man.
Awesome. So thank you so much again for your time. I appreciate your tips, and we're looking forward to see you again soon.
Much love.